the healthcare technology market, cannot expand just by itself. And though Mahat said that export is highly underleveraged, and that could grow exponentially compared to the supply to the domestic market. I think the mainstay of any economy is the domestic market. And we being such a number one population in the world, if we cannot establish new things and viability on the strength of healthcare services delivery in our country, simply aspiring that we'll export, I think is little too much. So in this context, I wanted those who are working in the field to spend, to give their views as to what we saw as very big drivers, Ayushman Bharat or the PPP scheme in the government hospitals, and many other initiatives which catapulted certain growth rate. Have they plateaued? Because I recently heard that people saying that Ayushman Bharat definitely is expanding, but it's not viable. The rates offered by the government are not viable rates for a large number of hospitals. Similarly, the PPP model, I hear that payments are not forthcoming. And in fact, some of the PPP operators have stopped service in some states because the payment is just not made. And they cannot continue to just keep on running. So these are some noises one hears, and the scaling up of those models to some extent has slowed down, in my opinion, but I may be wrong. So what it takes to overcome the hurdles of all these drivers of growth, and what you see. So I request Ganesh, who has a big, deep insight into the Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 markets. Similarly, Varian, which is, and Siemens, and all of your players who are trying to also participate in a big way in PPP projects. What's your take, and what do you see are the drivers of growth as you see forward? Can and Mr. Khurana also, he's a very strong proponent of rapid growth. See, Ganesh, I want to ask you is that we always look from the hospital side or from the technology provider side, the situation. But we often don't look at it from the patient side. Let me tell you is that the core problem from the patient side is inability to spend money to go to where the facility is available by losing wages. So it is not the cost of treatment alone or cost of diagnosis alone which matters to him. It is the inconvenience of going all the way to where the care is available.
That's why I'm saying healthcare has to go closer to homes, which means that those nursing homes, to his point, to Mahar's point, why can't I offer dialysis in that nursing home if I have a device that is able to support dialysis remotely? And is there a willingness with the bigger hospital to be able to be wanting to do with that nursing home, to allow dialysis to happen there? And NU hospital is trying to do that. I'm telling you some places where I'm just taking some names to where we are working. NU is trying to do that. There is a Kolar nursing home, have a device there. They are supporting, the nephrologist is supporting from here.
So what is the technology?
Connected care. Where basically the device, IoT-based devices, which is able to transmit information, on a phone or a monitor, which can tell you, which can help, guide that procedure. That is available today in many areas.
But I think one more element is there. You tell me whether you agree with that. Is that even with help of IoT or any other technology, you still require a tech
Yeah.
or a paramedic personnel
Absolutely.
who
Absolutely.
is capable of making that ecosystem work.
Absolutely. I'm even saying a doctor, not even a paramedic.
Yes. So
A
I
trained
think
doctor under the.
whoever can crack these two issues,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think the technology, those companies have a big future.
Well, I also think the technology is innovating to task shift. So I moved from this high cost resource to a lower cost resource, ultimately even to a family member, right? That
Yeah.
the innovation process could do that.
Correct.
And the other is to site shift, whether I have to go to a physical location, can I get some of this? So I think we bifurcate the healthcare needs from chronic illnesses to these acute situations.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not the place you start. You
Correct.
should start on these chronic illnesses, diabetes, for example.
Absolutely.
I think it's estimated there'll be more than 400 million diabetics in India by 2030. 400 million diabetics is enough to create a $50 billion MedTech landscape. If you were to think about, again, this process by which you would need to care for 400 million plus diabetic patients, right? So
And why is Ayushman Bharat money not enough? It's because you are using it for palliative care. We are all like say onco.
late
80%.
stage, the late stage.
Yeah, late
skills,
stage.
yeah.
Or renal care, which they spoke about. Almost all of this money is being wasted. I won't say wasted. No, pain relief is important from a patient point. I totally agree. But why could we not do it curative?
I think the most successful model in India is that go to tier 2 and tier 3, you will see husband and wife couple practicing. And they start with a 10-bed small setup. And they are the guys who end up their life, when they are 65, 70, they have built already a 100-bedded hospital. That change is growing. The trust of people there is very high. So basically, home physician, a personal physician concept still again is re-emerging is my view. You go to large hospital, you are lost in that big 5-star facility. You don't know who to go even for a basic needs. And why should you go? Why should you go and go for Naresh Trehan, only surgery done? I mean, they should go to right places. So that's another area which I feel.
So to Helmut's point, I would agree with him that we need to still give time to Ayushman Bharat as a scheme. I sincerely believe that it's a fantastic scheme, which has given potentially a chance to a population as large as almost 500 million people of this country, some money in their pocket to go and get themselves treated, which never happened. So, that is something very positive about this scheme. In last 5 years plus since the scheme has been launched, we have seen at least 3 revisions in their package, in their packages, rates, packages, etc., which are now evolving. And the very
Is it downward or upward?
upward towards betterment.
Good.
And let me also strongly put this particular point that whenever everybody, there's this common factor that the service providers say that Ayushman Bharat rates are not good enough for them to enroll and have patients in their hospitals covered under the Ayushman Bharat schemes. Now, let me ask this group, who are these players who are saying this thing? A handful of corporate hospitals. They have the voice, they have the presence, in the forums where the policymakers sit, in the forum, they have the visibility. So they have created this kind of a narrative that Ayushman Bharat rates are not good enough. But trust me, that's not the case.
I think it's music to my ears.
It is not the case.
I will second this point because the private medical colleges where the people were not able to pay, they are very happy. They were seeing the patient free of cost. But now they are saying that they are getting a reimbursement from government. So private medical colleges are very happy. What you say is very much correct.
Yeah.
Whether it is a FICCI forum or any other forum, we spoke about the insurances, you spoke about Narayan Rudale, you spoke about a Manipal group, you spoke about an Apollo. So who are these? These are the top corporate hospital chains in the country. The cost of treatment, basic cost of treatment itself is very high there. In the name of quality, in the name of the treatment they want to give to the patient or the ambience they want to create in their hospitals.
Plus 20% IRR.
Plus whatever.
That's a
So the point is, let's walk down to the healthcare facilities in tier 2 cities, in tier 1 cities. And trust me, we'll find ample players who are happy with the Ayushman Bharat schemes. They are enrolling them, themselves as service providers, as clinical service providers for these schemes. And yes, as he said, let's give some more time. A scheme of this scale cannot show results in 3 years or 2 years or 5 years for that matter. We need to, and India is such a diverse country. The kind of diversity we have in this country, I think nowhere in the world we'll find this kind of a diversity with the kind of numbers we have in terms of people. So we need to give this kind of a time period for at least 10 years.
Home health is a most crucial area. Like my father was diagnosed with a cancer, and we took him to hospital, got the surgery done. Probably not a right approach at 90 years to do that, but anyways, that was consensus. We brought him back to home. But home is not covered by insurance. The moment you have a home care covered by insurance, the insurance cost will come down, and you will actually see a totally new business emerging, which can change the way we look at the healthcare. You want to stay in the hospital because only hospital provides you the home care coverage under your insurance scheme. So I have lobbied on this, that home care should be, covered in the insurance, and connected home care devices. We are building our company. We have an app at a BPL where you have weighing machine, BP instrument, a couple of more products for the various vitals. You take it, it gets through your mobile. You have a data available, and you can share with your. So connected device at home is very, very mandated in time to come as your average age is growing. 1950 India average age was 32. Now we are talking of 71, and clearly we are inching toward the 75 and 80s and all that. So the moment you have that aged population, a senior citizen population, need a very different home care settings, very different clinical settings. So those are the areas, in my view, can make a big change. Another area.
So that could be something. And then regarding your home health, a lot of countries saw the same, that are more aging than India. And the decision was to integrate it into the health insurance, or have a separate, let's say, call it nursing care insurance. And most countries who got an additional insurance scheme had benefit from this. It's about 10% of the cost of the health insurance.
Absolutely.
But you can scale it up and down, and you are much more flexible. So there are models.
He was telling 1 lakh rupee per day for the ICU. At home, it becomes 3,000 rupees ICU.
And there one saw really a movement from I keep the patients in the hospital to get them home.
One of the points which came was, for example, if home health is covered by insurance, it can make a huge difference. So I think we need to pick up 4 or 5 such variables and actively work. The central election is coming in 2 years from now.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah, in 1 year from now. So we have to leverage some of these and make it the populist agenda of the politician. I'm going to do this, if not at central level, at least at the state level. And if we can do in 1 or 2 states, and if that state, like many examples, many of you have given, that state A or B or C is working very well, I think, it cannot be stopped after that.
You all run companies, but you don't run a country. I'm a little bit provocative now, because you want to solve the problems by technologies. I love technologies too, but you need some rules of play in which you can operate. You will not solve this kind of problems with a new technology. You need a framework in which you can.
Yeah, agree.
Looking at the Indian society from outside, if I may. In the last 10 years, we saw that someone said, I want that a farmer can transfer 1 rupee with a phone. So this person talked to the providers of infrastructure. Oh, much too expensive, we cannot do. Okay, you lose your license. Oh, we can do. The banks, everyone should have a bank account. Iris scan, fingerprint. The bank said everywhere, no, impossible. Okay, you lose your license. Oh, suddenly it was possible. Now I can here with this transfer 1 rupee. And I have this UPI. What is health data are more sensitive. The second one are financial data. And there is an UPI. You know, I love to scan and see. So the technology comes when there is a framework.
Working function.
So now, where is the UPI for healthcare? How can we create this for the health data to exchange? Ayushman Bharat can be a solution. Of course, it's not perfect, but give it 20 years time. When you look back to other countries, America, do we want their healthcare system? I don't think so. Do we want the British healthcare system and NHS? I don't think so. So what could be a way? When you remember 30 years ago, the Iron Curtain fall, and in Eastern Europe, a lot of countries asked this question. And most of them experimented, and in the end, they're now with a health insurance system. And that are recent experience when you look at that the health insurance idea is 100 years old only. So what do you need that private hospitals can participate in a health insurance system and patients can insure? The country has to have a little bit of kind of GDP that makes it viable. I think India is at the edge at the moment. Their income taxes, 300 taxes were united to the GST. Suddenly there's income. So the export and the investment in social and healthcare will increase. How to do it best? For an insurance system to harness the private sector, we don't want to socialize the hospitals, is the only way. You need 5 agencies. One agency is saying what is a hospital, what is a doctor. India has this. Then you need an agency, what do we want to reimburse? Because reimbursement seems the way to do. So do we want to reimburse hip fracture? Oh, definitely, people will have a miserable life without artificial hip. Do we want to fund wrinkle extraction? Definitely not. So we need health technology assessment to say which interventions make sense. This list then is given to the third institution that is doing the pricing. We heard pricing from Ayushman Bharat it's a kind of guess. Let's make, and there is experience with setting prices in a lot of countries in the world. So we need one agency that is not talking about, oh, we don't fund this, it's expensive. No, health technology assessment said it's worthwhile, so we have to fund it. Then we do the funding. And then you need a reimbursement agency that is doing this, that can, there we saw, oh, it's too slow. Yes, but in a lot of countries, there's an intermediate, for example, for the private insurers who say, as a doctor, I don't want to be in trouble with my patient about if the patient doesn't pay the bill. So I give it to an intermediate, he takes 10–15% provision, but is doing the billing. So how big a company should have to be an intermediate for Ayushman Bharat payment? Just as a question. Maybe it's possible. You need, when it's half a year delay, you need to compensate for this. And you could solve another problem by this, the administration of the hospitals, what we heard. They are lousy in this, how to put the right billing. That could be done by this intermediate too. And then you need a quality insurance institute because we're outcome-based and value-based. We need data. Yes, no problem. There are models in other countries. For each case you claim under the health insurance, you have to provide a clear set of quality indicators. If you have a wound infection after appendicitis operation in the first 2 weeks, this is a reclamation. This is still on guarantee. So no money for you. So you're interested that there is no wound infection. If after heart operation bypass patient die in 2 months, oh, let's have a look what's going on in this hospital. You have this nice graphs, how infection rates are in hospital. You just talk to the outliers and then you can work on this. This kind of simple structure can revolutionize your private hospitals, because what would happen? Let's talk about hip replacement. Definitely will be covered. Just imagine you run a private hospital offering this. You have one operation theater for this. You know now your catchment area because people don't want to travel. So at the moment you have 100 of operations a year, but there will be, you look at the demographics of the people, and the prevalence of falls and all this, there should be 200. But why don't those 100 don't come? Because they cannot afford to come. If the insurance would offer this to them, suddenly you have 200 patients without any advertisement, without any marketing. They just come and queue up. That is, you would order 3,000 cars from Mahindra, just give me this in this quality. Mahindra will give you a good price because they have economy of scale, all this stuff. And then your finance officer will come, well, when we have 200, we can afford a second operation theater. So there would be a constant flow of patients coming to the normal, let's say, private and governmental hospitals that you could count on. So I know this is a little bit fiction because there are a lot of the devil is in the detail problems, but it was possible with this year. And I guess in 10, 15 years when we meet here, this system will be here. And we see first steps. For example, there is HTA development. At Prasanna School, we run now the first Master in Health Technology assessment so that these people are educated to do this. We see that we reform the education for the hospital managers because doctors running hospitals, not a good idea. Definitely not. My generation.
Or at least we know
this.
the outcome when they do.
Yeah, my generation tried this. Not a good idea. And I'm a doctor myself, so leave this to the professionals. So there is a clear signs how things are coming. And if just imagine if you would have this framework, then you could deliver technology in a totally different way.
Yeah, I think it's not an either or, it's an and.
Exactly.
Yes.